In this special episode of Literacy in Color, I'm joined by my friends and fellow literacy advocates, Heidi, Jessica, and Yvette, as we take a moment to reflect on the magic of the very first ever Science of Reading Mini-Con, an unforgettable day filled with energy, community, and game-changing conversations. Before we dive in, I want to extend a huge thank you to the generous sponsors who made the event possible. Hand to Mind, Lexia, Reading.com, Slant System, and IMSI. Your support helped bring this incredible day of learning to life. You're listening to episode 48 of Literacy in Color. Welcome to the Literacy in Color podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Sullivan, a Science of Reading advocate with over a decade of experience as a reading interventionist and literacy coach. I'm passionate about making evidence-based instruction both effective and engaging. If you're interested in captivating our learners on reading fluently and understanding language, or as I like to call it, keeping it colorful, then you've found the right place. Each week, we'll explore intriguing lit bits and practical strategies around the science of reading and structured literacy to help you be colorful and teach colorfully. Are you ready to bring literacy to life? Let's color outside the lines and make an impact together. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Literacy in Color. Today is going to be a super fun episode because I'm joined with my Science of Reading sidekicks, Heidi Martin and Jessica Farmer, and we are about 2 weeks out from the very first Science of Reading Mini-Con. So we wanted to get together for a little roundtable recap to chat about the conference. Unfortunately, it's so difficult to coordinate everyone's schedules. So Jake is camping right now. So Jake, we send all of our love to you in the wilderness. And Yvette has a busy day, so hopefully she'll be able to pop on in a few. We're going to get into some of the nitty-gritty about the conference, and it was just such an exciting event that we wanted to have this time to talk about it. Let's hop right in. How did it feel to be part of this first in-person event with such an energized community?
I still can't believe that it actually happened. As you guys know, this is a vision that I had, and I was like, can we actually make this happen? Can it work? Can we do this? I'm still just in awe that it actually happened, and I feel like there was such positive vibes, and it's always so wonderful to meet people that you've only communicated with online. I know that we've all met in person before, but we don't get to see each other often, so even seeing all of you, even Jake, we live very close, I never get to see him, and then all of the people who have gone on this journey with us via social media, having them come and give their testimonies and tell us the impact of certain things is just priceless. It's amazing. And it just reminds us of why we do what we do.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I also want to add that it's amazing that Heidi put this together in such a short amount of time. She brought this up in October and put it together in less than a year. So I'm still in awe of how she did all of this in such a short amount of time. And it was a seamless, flawless event.
Yeah, 100%. And all of the details that go into putting on an in-person event, I can't even imagine everything behind the scenes that you had to orchestrate. And you talked about meeting people behind the scenes. And that first day, we had the sound bath and we got to meet with a bunch of teachers. And one teacher starts talking and Heidi goes, "Are you Michelle?" And she was like, "Oh my gosh, she knows me." And it was just like this special moment of these are the comments that you read or these are the DMs that you get and just putting a name to the face and how special. We're normal people and we live our day-to-day lives and go to the grocery store. It was incredible just to be surrounded by your people. And I had participants come up to me and say like, "Oh my goodness, I listen to your podcast. I send your episodes to my administrators." This makes the work that we do so special. a lot of times we don't know if we're making an impact from behind the screen. So to see everybody in person and everybody was just so excited to be there, it just reminds you that we're all part of this bigger purpose. So what kind of questions or comments did you hear from attendees that made you think that teachers were really hungry for this information?
I've been getting messages and hearing feedback online from people who want to do this again. I think that I actually maybe achieved my vision because it was to bridge that gap between research and practice. Yes, we need to listen to researchers. We need to learn from researchers. But what does this look like in my classroom? And I think that's what a lot of teachers struggle with. And so I did get the feedback that teachers were really excited to have things that they could immediately go back and use in their classrooms right away. No matter what grade they taught, we did have people from kindergarten through fifth grade at the conference. And I've just heard a lot of positive feedback with that. This is the conference that they were looking for. And they hope that we do it again type of thing. So it's really exciting to hear that feedback because that was the vision.
I think even during the sessions, being able to walk around and get questions on the spot from participants and being able to answer them in real time was really neat and something I haven't ever been able to really do in person. Just to be able to ask, what are the students doing right now? Or what's the teacher's role right now? Being able to ask those quick little questions that maybe you wouldn't be able to ask online about a video you're watching. So it was just really fun to interact with all the participants and walk around the room and chat with them. So that's what I really enjoyed.
And Jessica just reminded me of one comment that really stuck with me is, so after my session, somebody came up to me and you could tell she was just like, just really quick, I just want to let you know that I got more out of that hour than I have in all of these expensive multi-day PDs that we have to go to. I already have things that I can take back right away. And it was so great. Just that 1 hour, just the first hour, she was already excited about all of the things that she could use and do in her classroom. So I think that was kind of the overall feedback that I've been seeing.
There were quite a few teachers who were like, this is the best PD I ever attended. And it makes you think like you don't know what they have access to. And that's part of your vision too, right? Like making the science of reading accessible to teachers. Maybe the only outlet they have is social media. And so to have something like this where they see the practical application of the science, so much of the research is about how the brain learns, but like, what does it look like? And that takes teacher expertise. They were so excited. It was a lot of great content. And besides the great content, you also had so many fun extras like a coffee truck and mocktails and food trucks. So what was your favorite extra pizzazzy part of the conference?
Oh my gosh, the mocktails were so good. I was so impressed with them. So one thing also, what the vision was to support small businesses and support local. So that's what I try to do with having the food trucks. There was a lot of places that people could walk to for lunch and breakfast and things like that. But having the food trucks was just like an extra fun thing. The coffee truck and the mocktails. We had like a morphine mojito and fillable sunrise.
You had a digraph daiquiri.
Yes, digraph daiquiri.
When I had it was delicious.
They were so good. I had to try all of them. Actually, Jessica, I think I did miss the digraph daiquiri, but everybody said it was really good.
It was good.
Part of the vision was, so when we go to conferences, typical reading conferences, there's a lot of vendors that have reading materials, and that's great because we need things, right? Teachers need things. But I also wanted that time to not feel like they were rushed or have to see everything, but also to have experiences. So we had the t-shirts on demand where people could actually pick their size of their t-shirt, pick their design, and have their t-shirts made. We had a free bracelet making station where they could make the bracelets that say like educate or reading. And then Michelle, your oils were absolutely amazing. I'll let you talk about them a little bit more, but your make and take oils, that was free as well. And then just keeping the vendors kind of small so people could just chill and kind of reflect. I really wanted them to be able to do that during this conference as well.
Yeah, you want teachers to feel good. You're spending your time in your summer learning. So why not add all of this extra fun stuff where they can feel special? And Heidi knows I'm all into essential oils. I absolutely love them. So when she said she was doing a sound bath, I was like, ooh, I should bring my oils. And she was like, oh yeah, you should make a table. And I was like, okay. So teachers can come and just make their own roller bottle, or they could come smell all the smells, and they just loved it. And you also had Ink Factory. I don't know how you found them, but that was so cool. I'm still amazed.
Yes, I still have your boards. I need to get your boards to you all. When I saw them, I just thought, what a really cool way to help my vision come true, because I kept it Science of Reading mini for the purpose that I didn't want teachers to feel overwhelmed with so much information and then forget everything that we talked about, right? So we wanted to keep it mini, and then also, what a cool way to have them represent our sessions on one board and really help people be able to retain the information that they got that day.
I was saying to Jessica, she never saw my slides. She basically knew the title of my presentation. She's not even in education. She doesn't even know what morphology is. And like her ability to synthesize while I was speaking, to like draw and take notes the whole time. And it was just gorgeous. I'm just jaw dropped.
I can't get over how perfect each board was to each presentation, just her illustrations, and she got the main idea and details of everything so perfectly, didn't miss a beat. So I think participants really enjoyed that as well, not having to take super detailed notes, and at the end being able to just come take a picture of the board for that session and keep that as their notes. So that was really cool.
I was just in awe of her drawing. I just couldn't stop watching her drawing during all of your sessions. I don't know how you do this. I probably said that a million times to her. And she's like, no, this is actually a fun one. They'll do like business meetings and lawyer meetings and things like that. And I just cannot even comprehend the artist's mind, right? Like they're just so creative and able to catch those main ideas. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So while we're getting into some of our content, maybe we could run through some of our sessions and share one of your favorite takeaways or something special from that session. So Heidi's was first. She kicked off our day with Science of Reading 101, Unleash the Fun in Fundamentals. So Jessica, what was your favorite part about Heidi's session?
Heidi's just so lively when she presents. She brings the fun, absolutely. So I think that title was perfect. I loved all the hands-on activities that she provided. They were able to scan a QR code from the slide and do some phonemic awareness activities with the pictures. And of course, I think everybody kind of knows about your little name game, but maybe hasn't seen it in person like that. And I'm like, how does she do chart paper on the spot? I am not going to ever do chart paper on the spot. But that teacher was probably so excited to have her name worked on in that activity. So those were some highlights from Heidi's presentation.
Yeah, and that was real life commentary because Jessica was like, she's charting in front of 300 teachers right now. If my handwriting would get sloppy, I'd be like, I want to start over again. I loved how you had that one game with all the photographs and you were playing 20 questions with all the participants and being able to figure out what's the linguistic feature that all of these photographs have in common. Hearing all of their commentary, didn't someone say something really cool about morphology?
Yes. Can I tell you? This was one of my favorite parts. The idea is there's 4 pictures and then you have to look at the pictures and you don't tell the kids what the name of the picture is or anything and which one doesn't match the others based on sounds, based on, phonemic awareness things. And then after my session was over, someone came up and she said, just so you know, this could have been another answer. She's like, because we could say unchained, unlocked, and whatever the other picture was, but we can't uncake. So she said, you could add morphology in there as well. And no one's ever said that before. And I was like, oh my gosh, Michelle, I have to come tell you.
And new activity. I love it. Well, Jessica had ditch guided reading, skill-based small groups that work. And she kicked us off with, if I say templates, you say woo! Templates, woo! She got the crowd going. So they were so excited because she said templates just about 50,000 times. So they had to keep the wooing up. But I loved your circle word chain. I've actually never seen that before. So to have a word chain where you had to start and end with the same exact word, that took a lot of planning. So teachers trying to figure out what they would do, that was fun to watch too.
And they did such a great job. So many came up with word chains that I hadn't even thought of. And what's great is that they were all differentiating it for the different groups that they work with. And I think we even had some middle school teachers there. And they got a lot out of it as well because they might work with students in intervention. And a lot of the activities we shared could be used with a child no matter what age they are, because Heidi was using a lot of real photographs, which are great to use with older students. It's not an illustration that maybe looks babyish. And a lot of the templates we provided were very just basic and didn't have a lot of clip art or anything. So I think everything that we shared was applicable to kids of all ages.
And during Jessica's session, I got to walk around a little bit. How engaged the teachers were. I've been to a lot of PDs for a lot of different things as a presenter, as an attendee, and there's always people on their phones or on their computers, and there wasn't. And everybody was doing the activities that Jessica was telling them to do, and they were really working hard on it, and they had them ready to go, ready to show her, which as she was walking around. And I think that's just so powerful and actually like kind of gives me goosebumps right now just because doing it in the session, they're going to remember it so much more when they go back to their classrooms. And that's the point, right? We want to give them things that they can do in their classrooms. And they were so engaged with all of her hands-on activities. I just loved it.
It's like that I do, we do, you do, right? A lot of presentations will talk at you and you'll get a lot of great content, but then you don't remember it or you don't internalize it. So them just having time to practice, I think, was really meaningful. And so then my session was right before lunch and I presented on morphology in motion, and it was practical and playful strategies to bring word study to life. My whole thing is morphology sounds like this big scary word. When we think about the standards or instructional implications, a lot of people think that it's for upper elementary or for older students. So I wanted to show how we can integrate it really early on in developmentally appropriate ways. So hopefully accomplished that. I think I did.
You definitely did.
Yeah. I love your theme. I know you had like a theme throughout the Wicked theme and throughout your session, just like Jessica with the templates. I have an announcement. It's so fun. I was always scared of morphology. As a first grade teacher, I didn't realize I was actually teaching morphology when I was doing some of it because that term is very scary. And I think you do just an absolutely amazing job of making it accessible and understandable and fun. For sure.
Yeah, the songs that you included were so much fun. And I think that's something they can bring back to the classroom and sing with their students because kids just love adding music to anything. So I think that also helped it not be so scary.
I was like, oh my goodness, the DJ's going to hate me. I'm giving him so many extra jobs. You got to play me background music.
I was just going to say, when Jessica and I saw your slides, we're like, oh, okay, thankfully we are going before her. When you were asking me, for those that might not know, my husband DJ'd our conference. So, Michelle's reaching out like, can he play this song at this time and this song at that time? And I love that coordination of getting together the day before and going through everything so that you can incorporate that music into your session. It was so much fun.
It was so great. And I loved some of the feedback. I had a group of teachers come up to me as soon as I finished and they were like, oh, you have to come speak to our upper elementary teachers. We love this work and we feel like they need this knowledge too. I was like, tell your principal, I'm happy to. I'm happy to arrange it. And then after lunch, we had Yvette's session. It was Pass the Mic, classroom conversation to boost oral language and comprehension. And she was so cute in her little outfit there. She had an outfit change mid-conference to play off on her little hip-hop theme.
I just love how she's just so naturally funny and engaging without even trying to be. I could just listen to Yvette talk all day because she's just so real, but genuinely funny. I found myself giggling throughout her session. So you can tell what a fabulous teacher she is, an educator that she is. But oral language is something that often gets ignored and isn't talked about, but it's the foundation of everything. We have to start with oral language if our kids aren't speaking complete sentences. So she shared some really great tips and strategies. She had a lot of acronyms to help remember the different steps of the routines that she shared. So it was fantastic.
I agree with Jessica. She was so personable and she's talking to people in the crowd while she's in the middle of our session. And I struggle with that because I'm like, I'm going to forget where I'm at, forget what I'm going to say. And I also struggle with even making eye contact when I'm presenting because I'm always nervous if I'm going to look at somebody who's maybe not meaning to, but maybe looking at me like they hate everything that I'm saying. And then it's going to throw me off. But she's so good at just interacting with everybody and going off beat, like off of her presentation to do that. And I just really admire that as a speaker too, because I feel like that's hard to do.
And I remember watching her and Heidi just saying like, oh my gosh, she's such a natural. She really is. And Jessica alluded to this already, but like a lot of science of reading conversations tend to live in the word recognition realm, and such talk about oral language I thought was like a nice balance to the conference, since everybody was getting the same messages throughout the day, that we did have that balance, you know, talking about both sides of the rope and really interactive. She did like a game show. She had the teachers go up to the front and do some conversation starters with them. And a lot of times we think like, are these little conversations worth our instructional time? But yeah, they are. We need to take time to develop that oral language, and how oral language is really the foundation of everything. And it just reminds me how powerful her books are too. They talk about phonics features, but they lean into the read aloud realm where you can have more of those meaningful conversations and talk about language. So I just love the integration.
Yeah, I agree. When we were all developing this and, figuring out who was going to come as a speaker and what we were going to talk about, I was really excited when she offered up oral language because, like you all said, I think it's not talked about enough, but it's so important for our kids, for a foundation for literacy.
We ended the day with Mr. Jake Daggett on sound walls in K-5 literacy. It was the grand finale that is Jake Daggett, ending the day with some charm. So he just brings so much humor and laughter into the space. You look around, everybody's laughing and everyone's smiling when you're talking about sophisticated content here, like fricatives and all of those academic terms when we're talking about articulation. I mean, Jake is known for all his little chants and movements, but I loved how he modeled some of the things, like when he was talking about continuous sounds, how he started at one end of the room and he ran to the other end of the room and the whole crowd had to hold out the sound until he got there. So just to show fun ways to work with articulation when we're teaching that to our students.
Yeah, I forever will just say Jake is main character energy. I told him that that day. But I mean, it was on his birthday and he did come and present on his birthday, which I asked him probably like 50 times, like, are you sure? Are you sure, Jake? But I love his vibe. He brings so much positivity. And I just honestly love how I've seen him present before. And so I love that he does his presentations as if he's a teacher and we're the students. And I think that can be really helpful for something like what he was presenting on, the sound walls and the phonemes and things like that, because we can see what that's going to look like in our classroom. So what does this look like? And he makes it adaptable. So obviously we all can't teach the same as Jake Daggett does, but we can figure out what that's going to look like for us. And we see how he does it. And we're like, okay, maybe this is what it's going to look like in my classroom. And maybe I'm going to take this strategy or that strategy that he does. And so I think it can be really helpful to have a session like Jake's where he's really teaching it like he's the teacher and we're the students.
He's super active, and you realize why he's so sweaty at the end, because he is running around, engaging everybody, making sure everybody's paying attention. Talk about a with it teacher. He knew who was with him and who wasn't, and he doesn't let you off the hook. You're all going to answer. You're all going to respond. And he was definitely channeling Dr. Archer in everyone does everything. And that's really hard to do as the last presenter.
Keep us alive at the end of the day. And Yvette and Jake really did that.
And Yvette is here. We're so excited. She made it.
I can make it. Hi, everyone. I was just like listening in and just thinking back to how great of a time we had and how impactful everything was. I still feel like I'm there, but I'm still riding the wave of all the great things that came from MiniCon. So it was so good.
So fun. Well, we're riding the wave, just reminiscing of you with your Pass the Mic theme. So what was one of your favorite parts from your presentation?
Yeah, one of my favorite parts from my presentation was kept telling everyone this. This was one of the few presentations where I felt like I got to be my most authentic self. Sometimes you go to a PD and it's like very buttoned up. And if y'all remember, I came in like a dress in the morning. And once I picked up on the vibe from the other presenters and the attendees, I felt really comfortable being my most authentic self. So I went back, changed, put on my tracksuit, and kind of got into the mode that went with the theme of my session. And I felt like I could really speak from the heart and from the research too. And this was one of my favorite sessions because it was so engaging. The audience was just like so attentive. And it was right after lunch, y'all. I was nervous. I was so nervous. But everyone was so engaged, and the turn and talks and the conversations that the people and the attendees were having were really good. And even the things they shared out, it was just a collaborative learning community. Like I was able to learn some new strategies and some new call and response techniques and ways to engage and amplify student voices in the classroom from the attendees too. So it was that mutual learning space that was like a shared collaborative kind of process. And then the ability to just kind of like let my hair down. And I'm like, I'm amongst really good literacy leaders who embrace all parts of you, and you don't have to be so rigid and stuff. So that's my favorite part of you all creating a space where I just felt like I could be me and bring my perspective to the room.
Can I just say that I love that, because I know that a lot of you asked, what's the dress code or what is this? And I'm like, no, I really wanted it to be authentic, like you said, Yvette. And I wanted everybody to go comfortable. I wanted everybody to be authentic and not be like presenting, but be like talking to your friends. And that's what helps people to remember this important information that we're sharing. And so I'm so thankful and grateful that you said that. It really does make my heart so happy, because I was hoping that people felt that. And so I'm glad to hear that you did.
And I feel like the participants felt that too. So many people were like, you guys are so normal. And you don't know what people think of you when you're in Instagram land. People have preconceived notions of who you are or what you stand for. And for them to feel our authenticity and just realness, I think was a special moment.
We're all
too.
on the same level. We're all learning together. We are all forever learners. I don't know more than anybody else knows. I can share my specialty and the things that I've learned about specifically, but no one knows it all. And I think that keeps us all humble. I mean, we even took a ride with some of the participants to the events outside. We rode in a minivan with some participants, and they were just so excited to take us to some events afterwards. So yeah, we just got to know everybody. And that's what was so nice about keeping it small. I'm glad Heidi kept it small, because we got to actually know people. And that was just so nice.
It was so nice. And Yvette, oh my gosh, I have to talk about it. She had this heartfelt moment at the end of the conference with one of the teachers and a local student in that area. It was like a dream come true moment. I had like tears in my eyes watching it. Do you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah, literally, I had to go cry afterward. And I'm not a big crier, if y'all know me.
I was crying.
So there's a wonderful educator. She's in Racine. Her name is Amy. And she and I connected. We engaged online, and she utilizes some of my books in her classroom. And so she reached out about how grateful she was that there was a conference in Racine. So many conferences go to so many different cities. And she's like, what is the likelihood of there being a conference right here in my backyard? We made sure that she was able to come and to attend the conference. And one thing that she mentioned is it was affordable, right? Like it was a good rate to where people could invest the resources to be there. And it was also not just affordable, but it was impactful. Like, all the value that people got, they were just like, whoa. So she informed me of a student who was going to come to meet me. And I don't know if I was more excited to meet the student and her family, or if it was vice versa. But this young lady came across one of my books 2 years ago, and she was a reluctant reader. And her name rhymes with Nora. I'm going to say that. I have gotten her parental consent to share, but I didn't ask about this podcast. So I'm going to say rhymes with Nora. And once she realized that her name had a schwa in it, she just got really engaged in decoding and literacy and phonetic patterns and things. And so she has her own book and plush combo, but we've been communicating online. This amazing educator brought this student, her mom, her two brothers, and her cousin to MiniCon, y'all. When I saw her, my heart just swole up. Promise I'm not going to cry. And she told me how she had gone from being a reluctant reader to being voted Scholar of the Year. And that would have never been possible because I would have never been in Racine if it was not for MiniCon. SOR MiniCon just made that possible. And I spent some time afterward talking to the family, and the girl's name, who rhymes with Nora, said, I'm going to be an astronaut when I get older. I said, really? She said, yeah. In one of my books, you told me to shoot for the stars. And I started to read about stars. And so like right after all the presenting and just all the goodness in that room, that was literally just one of the magical moments that happened at SOR MiniCon. It would not have been possible. And it really reaffirmed my belief in the work that we are doing as a collective literacy ecosystem, whether you're giving tips online and you're on TikTok, or you're giving straight talk. Like Heidi, I was just talking about you yesterday. You are just so transparent and very like, this is what's best for kids. And it's about like facts and not feelings with you. And I admire that so much. And just everybody here has their own strengths and stuff, but that would have never happened. And that grounding experience is kind of like the why behind the what that came out during SOR MiniCon. And I was just still happy about it. Still am.
Oh my gosh. Seeing you guys hold hands and just jump up and down together. I'm just watching you guys with tears in my eyes. Like that was the most special moment.
So there was a lot going on at the end. And then I didn't get the whole story of everything that was going on with you, Yvette, until the mixer. Well, I'm so glad I did that because that was another way for us to connect with participants. But I met the lady that you were talking about, the teacher, at the mixer. And so she was explaining everything to me. And it's just, I mean, I can't even still believe that all of that happened because it's so amazing, like just so amazing. And if nothing else, and that happened, I'm so glad I did the MiniCon.
Also super random, but at the mixer, Michelle, you were there.
You did all the synchronicities.
Yeah, a teacher who came from New York. And it was just like confirmation that this is where I needed to be and what I needed to be doing. But I met an educator from New York City, which is my hometown, and this never happens, but we went to the same middle school and we didn't know each other until we met at the mixer after the conference. And she's like, no way. And we grew up in the same neighborhood and we talked about some of the adversity we've had to overcome to be able to be that change agent for children. And we were like, what are the chances that we would have to be in Racine to meet each other? And we've connected and we've kept in touch. And I think and I'm just still in shock because it's such a specialized school that I don't meet a lot of people from there. And I'm just like, my flabber has been gasted, as people say.
I know. I had met her and I was like, oh, Yvette, she's another New York City East Coast girl. And when they started to really dig deep into where they're from, I was like, how is that even possible?
Literal blocks from each other and had never crossed paths outside of Racine.
So we know Yvette's favorite parts of SOR MiniCon. So what was everyone else's favorite part of the conference?
I don't even think I could pick one favorite part. I think it was just the entire day and how seamless everything ran. And not only were we on time for every presentation, we started on time, we ended on time. We were like on schedule, which doesn't always happen at a conference. But I just think Heidi did such a great job thinking of every little detail. She thought about everything from the perspective of the participant and what they would feel and want to do. And I just think it was very heartfelt and planned perfectly. So you did an amazing job.
Yes, an amazing job. I wish I had somebody reach out to me like, can you all replicate that? Like, can you bring that to another city? Because we want what you all had there. So they hadn't attended, but they've heard about how great it was and how impactful it was. So I don't know, Heidi.
I know. We need to talk more about that because I actually was thinking that. I don't know if you guys noticed in the beginning where I said, how many educators are here from Wisconsin? And there was maybe 10. Everybody commented about that later. They were really surprised because they're like, we're in Wisconsin. Where is everybody? And so one thing I had actually thought of is maybe if I could get some more local districts on board, could we do a SOR MiniCon just for certain districts? Could that be something that we could do. And so definitely something to think about for sure.
All right, district leaders, you hear that? Email Heidi.
Yeah, we got some interest already, but keep it coming.
Definitely.
No, I'm with Jessica. I don't think I could say a favorite part, but I do think that the positive vibes from that day was something that I'll never forget. And I don't know if it's because we all got saved, so with the good energy in and the negative energy out the night before at the sound bath. But that was another thing. I was nervous about the sound bath because I'm like, oh my gosh, we have all this setting up to do. You guys are just getting into town. And then this is at 7 p.m., like as past my bedtime. But I couldn't be happier that we did that and got to really connect with educators before the conference. And I think it just made this positive energy for us that we took into the next day. And I know, Yvette, you even had said it a couple of times, like you could feel the positive energy. And, you know, when you do something like this, you're never going to please everybody. But I have to say 99.9% of everything that day that went down was positive. And so that's definitely just something that really has stuck with me.
Agreed. I know I mentioned like some of the highlights, but everything was just so good. As soon as it was over, I called my family and I'm like, I just had like the best experience ever. And it was cool to sit back and learn too, even though like, okay, you've got this session after lunch. It's like you're taking notes along the way because everyone's got their own expertise and experience. And I'm a Virgo and I can be very critical and I cannot find anything wrong. Nothing that's like, oh, it would have been great if it were not for this. Everything was seamless, even to how I felt like treated by co-presenters or who's your friend who was helping me figure out parking and
Sarah or Kim, probably.
Kim, yes. I just felt really seen in that space. And one thing I really appreciated, it wasn't kind of like a competition, like I'm going to show Michelle that I know more about morphology, which is so untrue because she's the morphology queen. But it was just like we were all there to uplift each other and the attendees and the work that we're doing that impacts the children. And that was evident from everyone, from the other vendors. I had 2 people drive up one came from Ohio and the other person came from Illinois to come and be at the booth and kind of listen in. And they were like, oh, this was worth the drive. This was definitely worth the drive.
I love how you just talked about the uplifting because I'm thinking back to Jessica again. You know, she had her Oprah moment with like, you got a template, you got a template, you got a template. But also it's like, you're amazing and you're amazing and you're amazing. And I feel like we all felt that. So reflecting on your session too, what's one idea from your session that you hope that the participants will take into their classrooms to try?
It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple, yet effective. So the things that you do, whole group, small group, doesn't have to be like this Pinterest looking activity. I think we all provided very practical strategies that you can do with not a lot of fluff, right? So Anita Archer would say, cut the fluff and teach the stuff. And I think that's kind of something you could pull from all of our sessions, is that it was just this is what it is. And it's fun, yet not a lot of things you have to prepare ahead of time.
I agree with that. And I think for me, I hope that everyone just took away, if you don't remember any of the games or anything else, if you remember the simple view of the reading brain that I created, which is included in the bonus zone. We didn't even talk about the bonus zone yet, but participants get so much extra stuff outside of that day. Because if we simplify things like that, and we can show teachers and educators what our brain actually needs in order to be successful readers, then can look for those games and things afterwards. But at least then you remember like, okay, all of these things need to work together and I need to make sure I touch on all of these things. And then that's how we can change the literacy statistics and make sure that our kids are successful readers.
One takeaway I would want people to use is the oracy framework that I shared and really get kids talking. I talked about like not being the sage on the stage, like the one all-knowing kind of being, and kids are just in a sit and get format, but really allowing students to take ownership of their learning and use their expressive language and stuff. So just I would want people to utilize that framework to plan intentional talk and not like, I don't like chaotic talk, but just designing and modeling scaffolded, structured opportunities for students to learn the skills to talk and debate and analyze things effectively and critically. And then also take advantage of opportunities for talk, not just a turn and talk about a read aloud. Like there's so many opportunities for students to have their voices and choices amplified in the classroom and allow them to take ownership. And that is part of the overall literacy framework too, and how oral language and expressive language contributes to writing in so many other areas and synthesizing information. So just let the kids chatter. That's what I want. Let the chit chat commence.
No quiet classrooms. I love a good framework. One of my hopeful takeaways that teachers will walk away with when it comes to morphology, having an approach that's more centered around the base than on affixes. So a lot of people think that they have to teach a million affixes or learn the definitions or memorize the definitions of all these affixes, drill them and those kinds of things. And even I, as a literate adult, don't remember the meaning of every affix. Like that's not the point. And the point is when you know the base, when you know the core meaning, that's what's building your word networks out. And just hoping to encourage teachers to play around with words and to play around with language. And I try to share a lot of interactive activities that gets kids talking and thinking. And we read in the literature all the time when it comes to building out your vocabulary and your semantic lexicon, right? And you want to build a community of learners that have this word consciousness. And it's like, well, how do I do that? How do I make kids word conscious? Can't do that with a worksheet. We have to do that by engaging them with language. So to be thoughtful and meaningful with our instruction and thinking, how can we expand these bases out? It's just a different perspective to think about too. So when we're reflecting on these takeaways that we want teachers to walk away with, your own personal reflection, why do you think this work is meaningful to you?
If you've ever heard me speak, you probably know my story, but I found out about the science of reading on complete accident. And I had been teaching first grade for over 10 years at that point. And I was really angry. I was really mad that no one ever told me. Why didn't you tell me this? And why are we doing these other things with our students when we're struggling? We have funding for title services. Some of my kids are getting pulled in going for title reading. And they're doing the same thing that I'm doing that's not backed by evidence and not backed by science and research. And our kids deserve so much better. And so I was actually just in shock when I learned that there is a science behind this and that I had been doing everything wrong. It was a little scary to start sharing at first because you're going against, and Jessica, you can probably talk about this too, you're going against what everybody else is saying you should be doing. And so when you do that, you get a lot of mean comments or, a lot of pushback. And I appreciate that now though, because it made me research more. I wanted everything that I was saying to be able to be backed up by evidence and backed up by research, and just to be able to share that. And it's been my goal from the beginning to share it in a way where how I learn, which is accessible. I want to break this down, please. When I first started hearing about orthographic mapping, I'm like, I don't need another big term. I need to know what this looks like for my kids. And so I wanted to be able to provide that to everybody else, including parents that are teaching their kids to read and who have maybe been taught wrong like me. And, I still can think back to specific students, their names, what they look like, what I was doing with them, and how I was doing it wrong. And if I could just go back and do it again the right way, and I feel so bad still, so it's kind of a cycle. And a lot of you can probably relate to this of feeling guilty and then feeling angry that no one ever told you, but then also feeling hopeful because now you know better, and, we can't do better until we know better. And so I still go through that a lot, but I have to always keep in mind the mission, and that is to change those literacy statistics. Our kids can learn to read, and we can help them learn to read. And that's really where the Science of Reading Minicon was born, is for this exact purpose, is sharing that research and that evidence in an accessible way so that all kids can learn to read. Because if the adults know it and the adults know what the evidence and the research says, we can pass that on to our kids. And then our kids can. And so I always just try to keep that in the back of my mind, literacy and justice for all. And together we can change the literacy statistics.
I think my story is similar to many of us, that we all started as former balanced literacy or whole language teachers because that's all we knew. And that's what colleges were teaching as well. And I appreciate what companies like Letters are trying to do to kind of stop that from happening at the college level, or trying to catch teachers as they're entering the profession. Because when you don't know any better, you can't really do better. And so all of us sharing about this information so openly, and like Heidi talked about, the accessibility of the information. A lot of this is hidden at very expensive conferences, or the research is behind a paywall and you don't have access to it. And a lot of it is very complicated vocabulary that when you start to hear these huge words, you just want to shut down and not really learn about it. And putting words on a flashcard seems easy and seems like that's something my kid can do. And as a parent, I can do that very easily. I don't know what else to do. And so I think that's why so many of us started to share our journeys, because we were angry, we were sad, we were going through all those stages of grief and thinking, why didn't I know this sooner? So I actually just saw a post in that big Science of Reading Facebook group that everybody knows about. The post was asking, when did you join the group? And the group started back in 2019. It really wasn't that long ago when that group started, and now the group is really big. But I looked back at my join date, and it was March of 2020 when the world shut down. That's like when I started really diving into the science of reading and going through those stages of grief at that time, and trying to make changes to my practices as we were trying to teach students online from home, and parents were trying to help teach their kids to read too. So I think we've all kind of been on this journey, and it's starting to turn. I feel the change. I feel the movement, is that everybody's kind of moving in the right direction. And I just hope we can continue this positivity. Kareem Weaver said we have to lead with love, or this movement is going to die. And it's true. Balanced literacy made people feel warm and fuzzy. And I think that's why people latched onto it so much, even though it wasn't moving the needle for our students, but it made them feel good. It made them feel positive. And sometimes science and research can make you not feel warm and fuzzy and happy and loving. So I think MiniCon achieved that goal because it was a very loving and positive day. And so I think we're doing our part to lead with love first.
That is great. Mine is a little similar to yours too. When I first started teaching many, many moons ago, we were doing like a whole language approach, and it was like a mandate, but I was like fresh out of college and I hadn't found my teacher voice yet to be able to, as we say, like buck the system or push back. And so as I found more information, I'm like, oh my God. Like I literally reached out to students I used to teach, like, hey, where are you in life? Like what's going on right now? Because unintentionally, I contributed to the educational malpractice by utilizing those approaches that were not evidence-based and didn't give them what they needed at the time. And I just really believe now, like literacy gives our children a chance at a choice-filled life. When you can engage with information around you and make decisions for yourself because of the skill set that you embody, then you have autonomy over your life and your decisions, over your healthcare, being able to fill out forms at the doctor, being able to read your sacred books when you go to your place of worship. Like you just have so much more autonomy over your life. And I think that literacy literally is the key to unlocking so many opportunities. And if not, we know what the statistics say and what they show. I live here in Atlanta, and the CDC has done extensive research on what happens when students aren't able to read and what happens with their use of illegal substances and incarceration rates and employment rates. And so many things are impacted by that. So if we can catch them now and change the trajectory for not just them, but even create a culture of literacy in their home, like Heidi, you talked about informing parents, you could be exposing multiple generations to access to literacy that they may not have had before. So that's what I'm really passionate about, just the whole choice-filled life aspect and the key to engage by like the skills that you have for yourself and to stand up for yourself and to show up in this society that is very bent on often silencing and marginalizing different groups. That's my why. Like everyone deserves a fair chance. So
I love that. And even reflecting on my own educational career, I spent majority of my time teaching, supporting striving readers. And I was trained in structured literacy like a long time ago, but I always say like I had rose-colored glasses because that instruction was only for kids with dyslexia or for kids who are like really, really struggling. Whereas the cuspier kids, we still went the balanced literacy route. I knew about reading in the brain, but how come it wasn't being applied to all kids? And I have this internal battle of, but I knew this, but I was still doing this. And it's just like, that's what was the mainstream. And we were all sold a story. And when you really follow the evidence and when you follow how the brain really learns how to read, we've all taught kids who weren't good at reading and we've seen the spark happen. And every teacher deserves to see that spark and every kid deserves to have that spark. And how Yvette was talking about having the key to unlock these literate lives, and it just opens a whole world to them. Heidi, you said it best when you said literacy and justice for all. And it's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a slogan. It's not just merch. This is something that we all truly believe is our life's mission and such a worthy cause. And I just feel really grateful to be walking alongside all of you who are like-minded advocates who feel exactly the same way. That was a very heartfelt moment that we just had. So we're going to end on a just for fun, rapid fire, one word or one sentence response to some of these things. But if you could give Science of Reading MiniCon attendees just one word or phrase to stick on a Post-it on their desk, what would it be?
Keep it going.
You got this.
Together we can change the literacy statistics. Is that too long?
We'll accept it. Mine will be captivate them. Hand to Mind gave the most amazing swag bags, you guys. What's one of your favorite must-have tools or manipulatives for literacy instruction?
Gotta have the dry erase pocket. If you don't have anything else but a dry erase pocket, you can teach anything. So that's my go-to tool.
That was mine too.
Sorry.
It means it's really good.
I'm going to say the conversation cubes from Hand to Mind that they put in the swag bags for everyone. Because if you don't know how to get the conversation started, then you can kind of gamify the experience, but it still like lends to the actual like literacy landscape. So those conversation cubes.
Post-its you can do anything with, but I love a good sound box. And doing them different ways and like having them not just be like basic sound boxes all the time. Those are fine to use, but not all the time for our kids, I think can be really helpful. So I like the Hand to Mind slider, doodle board, magnet board, like we used to have.
What's one word that you would use to describe your very first Science of Reading MiniCon experience?
Positive.
Iconic.
Ooh.
Mind-blowing.
Encouraging. And then, would you be down for a second annual Science of Reading MiniCon? Everybody together.
I'll be there.
Yes, I'm looking at Heidi before I answer.
Are you down, Heidi? I know.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know.
We're down.
Yes, I think people want it. I think it's needed. I think it's impactful. And if that's true, then I think I can't not do it again. We can't not do it again, right? That's how
I think you're right.
Yeah. I think
That's
you're right.
the goal. The goal is making a difference. And if that's doing it and that's going to do that, we have to keep it going.
Let's keep it going.
Keep it going.
And I just do want to thank the sponsors that we had for the MiniCon. I know I did keep it really small and tight, but Hand to Mind was absolutely amazing with providing so many great materials for everyone to take home and for us to use in our presentations, and also provided ice cream for Jake's celebration afterwards with the ice cream truck, bringing more of the fun. They definitely saw our vision for this conference for sure. And then Slant System, Lexia, and are sponsoring Jessica as a speaker. Reading.com was absolutely amazing. They came to the mixer afterwards, and they are just so down to earth. Amazing people running that company. They were awesome. And IMSI was a great sponsor for the MiniCon as well.
Amazing. We couldn't have done it without you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into Literacy in Color. I hope today's episode left you feeling both inspired and equipped with something new to add to your teaching toolkit. If you're enjoying this podcast, it would truly mean so much to me if you'd leave a 5-star review. It helps other educators find the show and join our colorful community. And don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss an episode. For more tips, tools, and resources, be sure to check out the links in the show notes at michelleandthecolorfulclassroom.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week. Until then, be colorful and teach colorfully.